Valencia against Chelsea as the Blues head to Spain for a huge, huge game. Win and we're through. Lose and we depend on others. But draw and make Lille at home one of the biggest games of the season so far. So it's a must win and a must not lose game, both at the same time really. And Antonio Rudiger is finally back in training. Hello there guys and welcome back to Blues Fans TV for another preview of mine, another preview of mine on this channel as we go into another Champions League match day, as we go into another Champions League game. Of course, I did miss the Manchester City game as a whole because I had a wisdom tooth removed on Friday, hence why I didn't do a preview on Friday, and you know, I was still quite sore and very swollen on Saturday, hence why I didn't do a live review then. Still a bit swollen, not sure whether the camera will be able to pick up on that. Also a bit sore when I talk, you know, loudly and stuff, but it's fine. You know, what don't we do for the Chelsea? But yeah, you know, it's a big game now. The Man City game was disappointing, especially, you know, with how good we were in the first half an hour and how unfortunate we were, you know, to concede the equaliser by De Bruyne. But overall, let's be honest now, we did still deserve to lose. But that's in the past now, and we go into another game, into a big, big game. And to keep it short and sweet, we win, like I said in the intro already, we win and we're through to the knockout stages. If we draw, we just need to beat Lille at home. But like I said again in the intro, that would make Lille kind of our biggest game of the season so far. And I'm not sure, and we're not sure yet, because they haven't been tested in that way, how well our really young players can handle a game that's filled with so much pressure, and that game would be filled with absolutely just gigantic pressure, really. And if we lose tomorrow, Valencia through, you know, unlike us, and assuming that Ajax will beat Lille as well tomorrow night, we then need Valencia, who will have already qualified, to beat Ajax in the last game, while we beat Lille, you know, in the last game, of course. Then we would still go through if Valencia, if they beat us tomorrow, if they then beat Ajax in the last match day as well, then we can still go through if we lose tomorrow. But basically, long story short, do not lose tomorrow, because you don't want to depend on a team that has already qualified and is nowhere near the best team in the group. You don't want to depend on that team to win that game, you know, for us to be able to go through. So we don't want to do that. But another interesting question, I guess, is how do we top the group? Now, again, assuming that Ajax will beat Lille tomorrow, because you have to assume that. Of course, if we win both of our remaining games tomorrow against Valencia and then the last game against Lille at home at Stamford Bridge, we of course top the group. Chelsea draw tomorrow in Valencia against Valencia, and we beat Lille in the last game. We top the group if Ajax and Valencia draw the game. So even if we get a draw tomorrow, we can still actually top the group, but then we would depend on others because, like I said, we would need Ajax and Valencia to draw that game. But that was really it for just the details as to how we can, you know, qualify to the knockout stages of the UEFA Champions League. But enough of that, and now let's get into our opponent, who are, of course, Valencia. And I did obviously make a preview ahead of our first game against them on match day 1 of the Champions League. And at the time, they were in absolute turmoil, having just sacked their manager that the entire squad and the fans loved. And we still lost. We still lost. Of course, we conceded a silly goal from another set piece. And then Ross Barkley missed a penalty when we could have equalised and then possibly gone on to win the game, because there was still quite a bit of time left in the game at that point. So things weren't great. It didn't go well at all at Stamford Bridge. And, you know, Frank Lampard's first Champions League game in charge, you know, as the manager, really didn't go well. But since then, Valencia's results have been kind of up and down. Quite a lot of draws, some good, some bad, but only 3 defeats in there, to be fair to them. One of them was against Ajax in the Champions League, 2 of them in the, you know, Spanish League, of course. But their last one, the last of those 3 defeats, I guess, did come against Real Betis, and that was last weekend. So the last game they played before, obviously, tomorrow was a defeat. But before that loss, their results did actually kind of pick up with 3 wins in a row. Although Espanyol, who was one of those 3 wins, are in the relegation zone, and Granada, even if they had a really, really good start to the season and were at some point top of La Liga, they're still a promoted side. So how much can you read into that, really? But they did beat Lille 4-1 in the last game of the Champions League. And it was a really strange game. I watched the highlights of it. I watched the extended highlights of it. And also looking at the stats, it was a really, really even game. And that is including Valencia scoring 3 late goals. You know, it was a really even game. Lille arguably with slightly more chances up until the point where Lille made it 2-1, because Lille then just, it was 1-0 until the 82nd minute, I think. You know, Lille scored an own goal, and then Valencia made it 3-1 and 4-1 in the last, you know, 10 minutes, I guess, you know, in the 90th minute, making it 4-1. So, bit unfortunate for Lille, bit fortunate for Valencia, but here we are. Ajax on 7 points, Chelsea on 7 points, Valencia on 7 points, and that's why this is such a big game. And their biggest danger man, I mean, you know, they seem to be the young Uruguayan striker Massimiliano Gomez, who with 6 league goals already this season has kind of managed to degrade Kevin Gamero to more of a bench player, which is interesting. And they're arguably, well, best player overall, if you want. Dani Parejo also has 6 goals already this season, which is interesting. But actually, bar one of them, all of those have come from a penalty spot, which, you know, I wish we were awarded that many penalties, really. They do, of course, still have other good players. Some of them are injured, and we'll get into that in a second. But, of course, you can never underestimate someone like Gamero or someone like Rodrigo, and some of their midfielders as well. But I did mention the injuries. They have players out like wingers Guedes, Cheryshev, midfielders like Kondogbia and Francis Coquelin, or Coquelin, however you want to pronounce his name. But also 3 defenders in Piccini, Diakabi and Garay. You know, of course, the Argentinian centre-back. Some of those might be fit for the game tomorrow. You know, the Valencia press conference hasn't taken place yet, so I don't know for sure. And, you know, some of them for sure won't be, so we'll have to wait and see what they go with tomorrow. But to be honest, really, that was it about Valencia. I mean, they're a good team. A team that is not to underestimate by anyone. They're a team that's very, very good in the break, but they're also a team that is not as good as Chelsea are. So with that, we go into it as the favourites, and I go into it hoping, not expecting, but hoping for a win, because we should be able to get the win. But usually, if you watch my previews, just said usually twice, I would be talking about Frank Lampard's press conference right now, but that actually only takes place at 6:30 p.m. UK time tonight in Valencia, as the squad travel out there, and only then is the press conference being held. And yeah, there's no point me sitting around here until 6:30 p.m. waiting for the press conference and then recording, because this video will be out way too late. So if you want the latest updates and the most important updates from the press conference, follow me on Twitter. The link to it is down in the description below, and you can see it on screen. It's at Laos1507. But yeah, we don't have any press conference to talk about now. So coming to Chelsea straight away. And even though we didn't have a press conference, we did already get a few injury updates today by who trained at Cobham this morning. And that training session, alongside the usual, included Hudson-Odoi, who was, has now fully recovered from that hamstring injury that kept him out of the Man City game. But also Ross Barkley, and somewhat surprisingly, Antonio Rudiger. All of those reportedly took part in full training, but don't get it twisted. There is no chance in hell Antonio Rudiger is part of the squad, let alone starts tomorrow. He will be out for a little while longer before we see him play, for the first team again. But it's still good to see that he is back in training. Now, if you remember, we played in a 3-4-3 formation against Valencia at home. A formation that most of you know I personally really don't like. Really not a fan of it. But also a formation that Frank Lampard seems to like using when playing against an opponent that is particularly strong on the counter-attack, as both Valencia and Lille, who we, used it against most recently, are. So, firstly, please, Frank, no 3-4-3s over here. Like, don't go for that shit again. It doesn't work. Don't do it, please. But I do think that there will be, a few changes from our 2-1 defeat at Manchester City on the weekend. And, let's just talk about it. Let's get into the lineup. And, some of it I'm not sure about. Some of it I will go with what I would pick. Some of it I will go with what I think Lampard will pick. But let's just get into it. Of course, even though he's been criticised quite a bit recently, Kepa will remain in goal. Let's be honest, it is what it is. The 2 centre-backs will almost certainly still be Kurt Zouma and Fikayo Tomori as well. So I don't think either of them deserve to be dropped, even though I'm starting to feel a bit bad for Andreas Christensen because he's not getting any game time at the moment. But the fullbacks, I think there might be a change from the weekend. I think there might be a change because Emerson, as much as I like him, and if you watch these videos regularly, you know that I like Emerson, he was poor against Man City. He wasn't great. Didn't do well when we conceded the goal, was generally didn't have a good game, and was then subbed off for Reece James with Azpilicueta moving over to the left. And as I really don't want to see Alonso play, while also Reece James has literally been good to very good every single time he's played, whether that was from the bench or from the start, I think Reece James does deserve to get another start. Not sure why my voice went that high pitch right now, but it is a very big game for us as well. And with quite a lot riding on it, with the pressure being very high in a difficult stadium to play in as well, I think we do need Aspie to start regardless. And to be honest, he's kind of surprised me with how well he's done whenever he has played on the left as well so far this season. And 3 weeks ago, I would have never thought I'd say this, but I'd actually start Reece James on the right and Azpilicueta on the left as the right and the left back. I'd actually go with that tomorrow because Emerson wasn't that good. Reece James deserves a start, and I don't want to see Alonso anywhere near their starting 11. So that's what I go with. But coming to the midfield, honestly, it's in a title as well. I just don't know. I don't know what I think Lampard will pick, and I don't even know what I'd pick myself. It's an absolute midfield selection nightmare. It really is. I don't think Personally, I don't think Valencia warrants using our more defensive midfield three of Jorginho, Kante and Kovacic again, like we did against Man City. Meaning that Mason Mount will probably, will and probably should come back into the side, because we do struggle in chance creation without him, as we saw against Man City, as we saw against Man United in the League Cup. And it's not necessarily just because him missing for the link-up, that as well to some extent, but also him making runs that allows the wingers and the striker, in Tammy most of the time, to drop deep and be that link-up as well. It just gives us a little bit, it just makes our chance creation a little bit easier with him in that position compared to the more defensive midfield three that we had. But I just do not have a clue who out of the three that started at City I would leave out for Mason Mount. I just have no idea. Personally, I think Jorginho is undroppable. I mean, we saw it when Lampard took him off against Man City. Our build-up play was basically non-existent the second he was taken off. Like, it just doesn't work without him, in my opinion. It just doesn't work. Yes, we won the game against Palace without him, and we were pretty good. But even then, we took quite a while to get going, and Palace weren't great that day. Palace weren't great, let's be honest now. When Jorginho was off, it was mostly just Kovacic trying to carry the ball forward with runs rather than us passing our way forward against Man City. Hence why in the second half we literally created nothing at all, really, especially after Jorginho was off. Kovacic has recently, to be honest, also kind of been undroppable. And then Kante goes and scores against City. So I just don't know. So really, it kind of just depends on Lampard's approach to the game. Is it in his mind a must-win, or is it in his mind a must-not-lose game? Because if in his mind it's a must-win, I think you kind of have to go with Jorginho and Kovacic and bring Kante on if we're, in the lead with 30 minutes to go or so, but actually not start and go to Kante. If it's a must-lose game in his head, I'd personally start Kante with Jorginho. I just don't think Kovacic and Kante together are as good an option as the other two. And like I said already, Jorginho, Kante and Kovacic together, to me, is just a bit too defensive. I'd personally be ballsy and start with Jorginho and Kovacic and Mount just ahead of them, in a 4-2-3-1, if you want to call it that, kind of a 4-3-3 as well. It's a mix of the two, as it always is with us under Frank Lampard. Really, I would do that, but I have no clue what he's actually going to go for. I have no clue. Leave it down in the comment section below who you would drop if you would actually go for the same midfield three as you did against City, as we did against City, sorry. Leave it down in the comment section below. I really, really don't know. But let's get to the wingers, because those are also tricky, really tricky. I think Willian should and will start again, but what about the other side? Pulisic wasn't great against City, and Hudson-Odoi hasn't started for quite a while now. Obviously, he was out for the City game, but before then he didn't start because Pulisic just won that spot. But personally, I'm sorry, it's a big game. And I think Pulisic works much, much harder off the ball than Hudson-Odoi does. So I personally stick with the American, and Cal can just, come off the bench and possibly change the game if needed. I think that's the better option to go with, even if Pulisic wasn't the greatest against Man City. Although, in my opinion, that is not all down to him. It was just down to also playing a very good team, and some of it being manager instructions, and then sometimes his teammates not finding some of the very good runs that, in my opinion, Pulisic did make. While up front, I think it should just remain Tammy Abraham, really. The only thing that he does really need to work on, in my opinion, is his hold up with long and high balls, because he's 6'5", right? He's 6'5", and he lost almost every header against Fernandinho against Man City, and also against both of the Ajax really short centre-backs. In both times we played Ajax, he lost pretty much every header against both of them. Against Daley Blind, who's like almost a foot shorter than him. Like, he needs to get better at that. He needs to get much, much, much better at that. He's very good at most other things, but that he's awful at, and he really needs to improve with that. But Shuai, in my opinion, is just much better coming off the bench, and Giroud, well, just don't even talk about him. But first and foremost, talking about the game, if we are awarded a penalty, Jorginho and no one else takes it. Jorginho and no one else. I hope we're clear on that, Frank. I hope we're clear on that. No Ross Barkley shenanigans again, because, then we wouldn't even be in such a huge game situation had Ross Barkley not taken a penalty, because Jorginho, I guarantee, would have scored. Other than that, it's the same as ever, really. Move a lot, pass the ball quickly. With that, then automatically kind of create chances, even though Valencia are good defensively, as we saw in the game at Stamford Bridge, of course. And then when we do create chances, because I am confident that we will, take those chances. And all of that while being 100% focused for 90 plus minutes, for the entire 90 plus minutes. We cannot just gift them another goal from a silly set piece, from just poor set piece defending, or just by being careless when they're hitting us on a break. Like, we need to be careful, we need to be focused. But my score prediction is going to be a win. I think we're going to bounce back from the weekend and secure qualification to the Champions League knockout stages tomorrow night, which would, of course, be incredible. And in my opinion, we're going to get a 2-1 win, a 2-1 away win. But yeah, that was really it from me. I hope you guys did enjoy this preview. My mouth is now kind of a bit sore, so I really do hope that you appreciate my efforts of making this video for you guys. Now I'm going to edit it and then I'm going to upload it, of course. And yeah, I do hope you enjoyed it. Like I said in the beginning, make sure, no, I didn't actually say in the beginning, so make sure you subscribe to Blues Fantasy Video. It would be massively appreciated. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video, that'd be great as well. Let's see how many likes we can hit. I just massively appreciate it. If all of you that especially made it this far can drop a like down below, and of course leave me all of your thoughts ahead of the game down in the comments section below. What lineup would you go for? What's your score prediction? And the whole, you know, midfield selection nightmare, what would you do about that? Like I said earlier already, leave your thoughts on that down in the comments section below. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, and I'll see you when I see you.